Now, when we say expenditure method, we are saying when something is produced, someone will buy that item, expenditure will be made. Now, whatever is produced in the economy, what is final goods and services? Final goods and services is what the production we have to count. Who can spend money on this final goods and services? First, what are final goods and services? One, consumer goods, and second, capital goods. That means in any 1 year, total consumer and capital goods produced, someone will spend money on them. In expenditure method, I am going to calculate how much money was spent. But the money is spent on what? Consumer and why? Because these are final. So if one table is produced, someone has spent money to buy that table. I want to count how much the money was. So in expenditure method, I'm going to ask different actors how much money did you spend on consumer and capital goods in this 1 year. So my question in expenditure method would be different actors. I will ask them the question, what is the amount you have spent on final? So I have to count this only. Every actor, I have to count how much money did they spend. Because my original hypothesis is saying if this is produced, someone has spent money. Count the production or count the expenditures, both will be the same. So in expenditure method, what I'm counting is the money which is spent. Now the first economic actor is household. What type of expenditure does the household make? What does the household buy? The household will always buy consumer goods. Household does not have anything to do with capital goods. There is one capital good which they will do, but majorly they will buy consumer goods. Now household, whatever consumer goods have been created, households will buy it. The expenditure which the household does on consumer goods, this is called as private final consumption expenditure. The variable which we used was the variable C. If you remember in the very simplistic explanation, I told you household spending on consumer goods is C. Household, whatever consumer good it buys, it is private final consumption expenditure. For example, an economy is producing 10 consumer goods. Household has bought 5 items. So these 5 items will go with the private final consumption expenditure. Is this clear? There could be remaining 2 goods which the government can buy and 2 goods which outside people can buy. So there are total 10 goods produced. 5 are bought by household, 2 by government and 2 by rest of the world. Whatever the rest of the world buys in my economy, what is it called? If outside people buy produced in India, what is it called? Exports. So that means I will add what the rest of the world has bought in my country. This is called as exports, which I use the variable X. 2 consumer goods are bought by government. Government has to provide administration, public goods and welfare. For example, running a police station, it has bought tables, chairs and also tube lights. That means it has bought some of the consumer goods. वैसे तो ये goods household और यही buy करते हैं. But government can also buy for providing public goods. This is why this is the expenditure of this we call as government final consumption expenditure. This is what the variable we used as. So my economy created 10 consumer goods, 5 were bought by household, 2 by government and 2 by rest of the world. What government household has spent is called private final consumption expenditure. What rest of the world has bought is exports, and what the government has spent on consumer goods is called as government final consumption. Are these 3 terms clear? I've just expanded the technical names. Government final consumption, private final consumption. What they are doing for consumption, what they are doing for consumption. Now apart from that, there are capital goods also created. Now I have to account for 2 more things. There are capital goods created and there is one good which is produced but it is not sold. Whatever is being produced, I want to count the expenditure. 2 expenditures are left. Expenditure on and expenditure on this. These 9 are counted. Whatever has produced, I have to spend money to buy them. 9 have been accounted for, 1 is remaining and capital is remaining. Right? Now who can spend money on capital goods? If a machine road is being built, who is spending money on capital goods? Capital goods are assets, machines, roads, all of them are capital goods. If they are produced, someone will spend money. Whatever money is spent on the capital goods produced, this is what is called as gross capital formation. Whatever money is being spent on capital goods. We use the variable, remember, C plus I plus G plus X minus M. I have already told you what the meaning of C is, what is X is, and what is G. Now, I is total money spent on creation of capital goods. Now, who all are creating capital goods? One, this is called as gross fixed capital formation. Understand this carefully. Fixed capital means this is an asset which has fixed. Example, machines. Example, roads. Example, houses which have been built. Now, whatever fixed capital is bought by the firm, what can firm buy? Firm can buy various machines and tools. These are fixed capital. Both of them are fixed capital, but the firm has bought. Similarly, this fixed capital can be created by, if the government builds any new infrastructure, public good, that is also capital formed. Only one thing which the household can do as capital good is, what is one capital good which the household has created? First, what do you mean by household? Household, or what do you mean by capital goods? Which is used in production but is not consumed. Used in production, not consumed. Used in production, not consumed. Household ऐसा क्या कर सकता है जो consumption में, it's used in consumption, is used in production but not consumed. The moment household is taking part in construction. Construction of a house, this is only one example of house capital goods. Rest all are consumption. So if a household buys a car, car is consumption. Why? It's a consumer durable. It's used only for consumption and used again and again. But if the household constructs a house, it is capital. So only one expenditure of household is capital, that is construction of a house. Is it clear? So capital goods produced are machines, are infrastructure, and household. Is this clear? Now what is the second element here? I have counted all the capital goods created. How did I count? Some capital goods by firms, some capital by government, some capital by all capital goods included. Now one thing that is left is one consumer good. My economy has produced consumer goods and has produced capital goods. Consumer goods bought by household were 5, counted under consumption expenditure. 2 bought by government, counted under G. 2 by exports, counted under X. There is one remaining good, and capital good has been included in this. C plus G plus X plus. Is it clear? The only good that is remaining one. This I include under another variable which I called as change in. What is change in inventory? This one particular good which is remaining, this is expenditure of whom? 10 टोटल बने, 9 बिक गए, तो 5 हाउसहोल्ड का अकाउंट किया, 2 गवर्नमेंट एंड 2 एक्सपोर्ट्स. हाउ विल आई काउंट दिस वन? हु स्पेंट मनी ऑन दिस? It's firm because I could not sell it. This is why it goes in inventory of the firm. I calculated what is my opening inventory and what is my closing inventory. Opening inventory was 10 goods, closing inventory was 11 goods. That means closing minus opening, I have 1 good. I will include that in. So 9 goods, CGX, 1 good under I. Is this clear? Change in inventory opened, when the firm opened, 10 goods were in the stock. When I closed, 11 goods were in the stock. That means change in inventory is closing minus. That means 1. So 9 वहां काउंट हो गए, 1 यहाँ काउंट हो गया, कैपिटल गुड्स यहाँ काउंट हो गए. That means everything got counted. Is it making sense? this particular expenditure is expenditure of the firm. That means it includes goods which are produced but not, because it was produced but not sold. I produced 10 goods, 5 were bought by household, 2 by government, and 2 were by rest of the world, right? Now produced counted was 10, but spent I counted 9 only. My question said that if whatever you produce, money will be spent. So when I counted production counted was 10, but money spent was only, I have to include 1 also. How will I include this one? Who has spent money on this one? Firm. So this I added here. In component I, C was this, G was this, X was this. In component I, 1 I am counting total capital goods. Then I am counting the goods which are produced but not sold. So did I count all the 10? Have I included all the 10? 1 has been included in inventory. जब दुकान खोली 10 थे, जब बंद की 11 थे. That means 1 good was produced, but is this making sense? Have I counted all 10? So all 10 consumer goods under C, G, X and I, and capital goods under this. All goods are counted. Is this clear? Any doubts in this? Is, if anyone is not able to understand, you can ask. हमने start क्या किया? Question. What are we counting? If anything is produced, I am saying money is being spent. So one method counts total produced, the other method counts total. ये दोनों same आने चाहिए. When I counted goods produced were, but when I am counting spending, I counted only 5 with household, 2 with government and 2 with, तो ये तो अलग हो गया. That means there was one good which was produced but not sold. So if it is produced but not sold, who has paid money on that? Firm. तो वो count कैसे हो? तो फर्म से हमने पूछा जब आपने शॉप खोली कितने गुड्स थे? They said 10. जब आपने शॉप बंद की तो कितने गुड्स थे? He said 11. तो ये एक कहां से आया? प्रोड्यूस हुआ पर बिका नहीं, तभी एक आया होगा. I started with 10 and I produced 10 more. Right? I have sold 9 out of that. So there is what is closing. So that means this was production. I need to count this. 9 वहां काउंट हो गए, एक यहाँ काउंट हो गया, टोटल 10 काउंट हो गए. Because this is a question I can ask here only to the firm. It's the capital of the firm which will be used next year. Where should I include it? किसका? मैंने क्वेश्चन पूछना है फर्म से, मैंने क्वेश्चन पूछना है हाउस होल्ड से कि आपने कितना खरीदा. He said 5 goods. I asked government 2 goods, rest of the terms 2 goods. So where exactly will I ask now? So you're just saying कि ये वाला बाहर लिख लो बाहर. This is I'm telling you how it is accounted. Your question is saying अलग से अकाउंट कर लो, हम इधर अकाउंट कर रहे हैं, क्या फर्क है? Is it clear? Is this clear? What goes in inventory? Anyone has a doubt? I'll explain one more thing here. But this concept clear? Closing minus opening. क्योंकि वो एक गुड भी काउंट करना है. When we started our example of CIG, we said जितना बना है उतना सब खरीद लिया गया है. If that becomes here, say rest of the world buys 3, then inventory is 0. So this closing will also be 10. तो 10 बाहर ही काउंट हो गए. Is this clear? One, what goes in inventory? Certain goods which are produced but not sold. Now consider there are 12 goods made. These 2 goods are raw material. जो फर्म ने खरीदा तो so that they can, these 2 are raw material which was bought by the firm in order to produce a final good, but बनाया नहीं उस साल. They bought say 2 fabrics, they had to convert it into shirt but could not do it that year. So these are the 2 goods which were raw material bought for final production but were not produced. So fabric खरीदा but बनाया नहीं shirt. For that year, is this fabric raw or final? 2023 में they have bought, they created 10 shirts and they have two fabric which they could not convert into shirt. तो ये fabric जो है, is this raw or final for that year? It's final. For that year, it's final. Why? Because it did not get processed. Final definition is something which is not reused or not processed. So this does not get processed. So this two fabric also is the expenditure of whom? Firm. That means inventory will not only include produced but not sold, but will also include raw or intermediate which was not processed. So my opening was 10, but my closing is 13. How did this happen? एक गुड तो वो है जो बिका नहीं, दो गुड वो है जो प्रोसेस नहीं हुए, तो ये तीन का खर्चा किसका है? So 13 minus 10, it will be 1 produced not sold plus 2 not processed. All expenditures I have to count. Are the all expenditures counted? Is this clear? So whenever 10 goods and 12 were produced, 1 was not sold and 2 were not processed. तो ये दोनों खर्चा किसका है? तो हमने वो change in inventory में count कर लिया. Is change in inventory clear to everyone? Now understand this question carefully. I have one goods which is produced but not sold. Next year, this is 2024. In 2025, they produce 12 but sell 13. Can this happen? Now if I sell 13, all of this 13 will get counted in expenditure. C plus. अब यहां तो गड़बड़ हो गई. प्रोड्यूस तो 12 करे थे, एक्सपेंडिचर में काउंट 13 हो गए. Should this extra one be counted? Did you understand my question? In this year, I should count only 12, but I have counted 13. Should I count 12 or 13? Why not 13? Because one तो जब प्रोड्यूस हुआ तो वो काउंट हो रखा है, तो दोबारा काउंट कर रहे हैं. तो in any year I only count production. So if I produce 12, why am I counting 13? See what will happen in this year. Say let us assume all of the together 3 bought 13. I should count only 12. How will I count 12? What will be change in inventory? Change in inventory is closing minus opening. अगर आपने एक गुड इन्वेंट्री से बेचा है, that means आपका opening inventory was 11, closing is, then only you have sold one from this. So what is your change in inventory? Closing minus opening minus. So here I counted 13, here I counted minus. So what I have total, what I have counted? Is this clear? How change in inventory will always accommodate whatever you have produced. When I produced 10 but I sold 9, change in inventory was plus 1. So 9 plus 1 became 10. When I produced 12 but sold 13, then sold with change in inventory became, जब produce 10 किए, sell 9 हुए तो change in inventory plus 1 हो गया. But when I produced 12 and sold 13, change in inventory became, so always have counted what exactly has produced. Is this making sense? I will always count what has been produced because change in inventory balance कर देगा. अगर बना है नहीं बिका +1, बनने से ज्यादा बेच दिया तो always be adjusted. Is this clear? So in my gross capital formation, it's fixed capital, firm, government and household. Change in inventory is closing minus opening, which includes produced but not sold and not processed. क्योंकि उस साल यही फाइनल है, दोनों पे खर्चा है फर्म का. Is this making sense? Now there is one more item which we are not counting in consumer goods. These are called as valuables. Households can also exchange items which are, say, jewelry made of gold. Now this is not a consumer good actually. So we are counting this under, तो अगर किसी ने gold की jewelry ली, that is also counted, but that is not counted under consumption, it is counted under Someone has bought a piece of art or sculpture. Ideally, this should have been counted under consumption. We are not counting under consumption, we are counting under valuables. Valuables change in valuables, that is jewelry made of valuable items, gold or any other valuable item, and also art and sculpture pieces. This is actually the expenditure of household. We are not including it there, we are including under capital. So now total expenditures which have been made, household has spent money on consumption, this is called as private final consumption expenditure. Government has spent money on consumption, this is called as government final consumption. Rest of the world has spent money on exports, and whatever is the money spent on, this is done by, this is first gross fixed capital formation, done by firm, done by household, and done by government. Firm has bought the machines, household has done homes, and government has done capital goods, that is infrastructure, plus whatever is the change in inventory. Change in inventory means goods produced but not sold, and raw and intermediate material which is not processed, plus whatever the valuables होने वहां चाहिए थे, हमने यहाँ कैपिटल में इंक्लूड किया है, right? And since they have invested money on household imports, they have spent money on imports. Household bought imports, they bought imports. I will have to subtract the, when I asked the households what money they spent, they said 10,000. उसमें से 2,000 उन्होंने imports पे खर्चा किया. I will have to remove all of that. That remains the same. So private final consumption expenditure, government final consumption, and gross capital formation minus imports plus exports. This variable is what we use C. This is the variable X. This variable is I, and this variable is whatever got produced. I have counted all expenditures. कुछ भी बना एक साल में, expenditure सारे terms में नीचे count होंगे. Any expenditure you see. Household bought a car, expenditure here. Household bought certain valuable item, expenditure here. Household built another expansion of a floor or new home here. Firm, government spent money on consumption, government spent money on building public goods, this plus this. Firm spent money on machines, firm spent money on goods produced not sold here. Outside people spent money here. Everyone spent money on imports, I removed the imports. So सारे expenditure हर head में count हो गए. Are all of these terms clear? Any doubts in this? It's not a consumer good. It's a valuable. It's more of a capital only. Consumption कैसे है वो? Consumption कैसे है? Definitely that can happen here. Because it's capital, it's more of a nature of a capital good. People don't have all of these particular items which are used for consumption only. They use it for asset building, wealth creation. जितने भी लोगों ने लिए हैं गोल्ड या किसी ज्वेलरी, it's not always for consumption, it's mostly for asset building. This is why value as capital. Capital is the asset which you have. So household के assets दो ही हैं, home और वो valuables. What you are saying is why here only, that's the only difference you are saying. It's more of a consumption, but consumption नहीं है because mostly asset creation and सबसे. Yes. हाँ वो ऐसे हो जाएगा ना. नेक्स्ट यहाँ पे कितना था? चेंज इन इन्वेंट्री वाज आई स्टार्टेड विद 10, आई हैव 13 लेफ्ट. नेक्स्ट ईयर क्या होगा? वो जब कन्वर्ट हो जाएगा, ओपनिंग 13 है, रिमेनिंग 11 हो जाएगा, तो -2 हो जाएगा ना. तो फाइनल गुड अगर फॉर एग्जांपल शर्ट 13 मेरा स्टार्टिंग है, उससे रॉ मटेरियल से शर्ट बना, तो शर्ट कौन खरीदेगा? इन हाउस होल्ड से. अब उसका प्राइस ज्यादा है, इसका प्राइस कम होगा, तो वो डिफरेंशियली ऐड होगा, क्योंकि 100 रुपए की शर्ट ऐड होगी बट रॉ मटेरियल 80 का कम होगा. माइनस तो यहाँ होगा ही, बट 80 कम होगा और ऐड 100 होगा, तो ऐड से +20 होगा जो वैल्यू ऐड है. You get it? There will be a difference in the price. So households, when I asked how much did you spend on the shirt, they said 100. When firms asked how much was the closing, he said -80. बिकॉज जो गुड आपने कन्वर्ट किया वो 80 का था, 100 का नहीं. तो एड सिर्फ आपका 100 - 80 20 हुआ. -2 हो जाएगा ना, कि 13 से 11 पे आए. -2 तो होगा ही ना, बिकॉज दीज टू हैव बीन कन्वर्टेड. सो +2 -2. इफ दे वुड हैव बीन द सेम प्राइस, इट वुड बी नेट इंपैक्ट 0. बट इफ इट इज अ डिफरेंट प्राइस, सिर्फ जितना वैल्यू ऐड उतना ऐड होगा. Always will be adjusted in change in inventory, which is an expenditure of the. In our circular flow, our assumption was whatever is produced is sold. तो ये कंपोनेंट ही नहीं था, और वो कंपोनेंट ऐड होगा इन तीनों के पास, क्योंकि जो भी है प्रोड्यूस करेंगे यही तीनों खरीदेंगे. इन्होंने एक्स्ट्रा भी खरीदा हुआ है, इसलिए वो माइनस किया. सो टोटल whatever is produced, money is spent. I am only counting what is spent. This is expenditure method, and through the expenditure method I got GDP at, because expenditure happens in the market. Is this clear? You need to know the meaning of these terms. Question in the exam would be, what do you mean by gross capital formation? What is included in gross capital formation? What is the meaning of private final consumption expenditure? They'll not ask you, see, वो ये पूछेंगे इसका मतलब क्या है. They're going to ask you, what is the meaning of this? Meaning of these terms is something which will be asked. You're not going to get a question in mains which is going to ask you what is expenditure method. They are going to ask you in prelims, what is the meaning of these terms? What is the meaning of gross fixed capital formation? Does the household do this? This classification and meaning is what you need to know. Meaning should be clear. Is this clear how expenditures are calculated? Write down the heading. Methods of GDP estimation, expenditure method. Methods of GDP estimation, expenditure method. Methods of GDP estimation, expenditure method. In this, right? In this method, the total expenditure done by, in this method, the total expenditure done by total expenditure done by the different economic actors done by the different economic actors on all final goods and services. Expenditure done by different economic actors on all final goods and services produced in the domestic territory are calculated. It includes first the private final consumption expenditure, private final consumption expenditure, which is the expenditure done by households. Private final consumption expenditure, which is the expenditure done by the households. Expenditure done by the households on consumer goods and services. On consumer goods and services. Second, gross capital formation. Gross capital formation, which includes the total expenditure, which includes the total expenditures done by firm, household and government firm, households and government on capital goods produced. Household and government on capital goods produced. The three components are: first, gross fixed capital formation. Gross fixed capital formation. Gross fixed capital formation, that is the expenditure done. Gross fixed capital formation, that is the expenditure done on new assets such as buildings, machinery, tools. Expenditure done on new assets such as buildings, machines, tools, infrastructure, and construction of new homes by household. And construction of new homes by household. Construction of new homes by household. Second, change in inventory. Change in inventory of the firms which includes change in inventory of the firms which includes goods produced but not sold. Goods produced not sold, and raw and intermediate material and raw and intermediate material which is not processed. Third, the net acquisition of valuables. Net acquisition of valuables which includes gems, jewelry, pieces of art, sculpture, etc. Art, paintings, sculptures, etc. Then third, so first is private final consumption expenditure. Second is gross capital formation, where we have discussed three. Then third is government final consumption expenditure. Government, right on the third component. First was C, second is I, third is government final consumption expenditure, which includes government final consumption expenditure, which includes consumption expenditure, which includes the compensation paid to government employees, compensation paid to government employees, and money paid by the government, compensation paid to government employees, and money paid by the government, money paid by the government for purchase of goods and services. Money paid by the government for the purchase of goods and services. Then fourth, the expenditure done by rest of the world. Expenditure done by rest of the world on goods and services produced in India. Expenditure done by rest of the world on goods and services produced in India, that is exports. That is exports. Is this clear? Something which is produced in India but bought by someone else. Firms can buy, or the household can buy it, government can buy it, it could remain with the firm, or it could be bought by someone else. Someone else is the export outside India. In the next one, right? Household firms and government, since household firms and government have spent on goods and services produced outside India, have spent on goods and services outside India, produced outside India, this expenditure will be removed outside India. This expenditure, that is import payments, this expenditure, that is import payments, will be removed. Why it is removed is clear. This is the meaning of all four terms clear now? You can write down this equation. Consumption plus capital formation plus final consumption expenditure plus x minus m. Exports minus imports. I have counted all expenditures which have been done on the goods and services produced. No expenditure is left. In our simplistic explanation, I told you I is only the expenditure of firm. Now, how government and household are also there is clear. If you remember when I discussed I said only firm is making investment. Now it should be clear everyone is making investment. Government is also making investment. Household is also making investment. But primarily who is investing? Firms. You can see both. Maximum firm ही करेगा. Government also does it because it creates capital goods. Whatever has been produced, I have counted all expenditures. कैसे? वो सारा उसका कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन में जाएगा. तो जब उसका गुड बनेगा उसने सारे कंज्यूमर गुड का प्राइस इंक्लूड कर लिया, राइट? तो जो भी प्रोडक्शन होगा उसका वो ऑलरेडी इंक्लूडेड है उसमें. चाय समोसे सारे आपसे लेगा. इट्स कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन. तो वो उसका पार्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन है ना. I consume something, then I produce it. Why else is the firm consuming? Firm is only consuming for producing. Are all the terms clear? Now see one small change which nobody asked. All of the things which has everyone noted this down? ये सेम चीज अभी डिक्टेट की है वर्ड्स में. ये सिर्फ डायग्राम सेम चीज लिखा है. इट्स नॉट दैट आई डिक्टेटेड इन इंग्लिश एंड हैव रिटन इन चाइनीज. इतना सरप्राइज होके बोर्ड से नोट कर रहे हो. आई एम टेलिंग यू डिक्टेशन इज अ वेस्ट ऑफ टाइम इन द क्लास. वो करना पड़ता है बस बिकॉज पीपल हैव अ हैबिट ऑफ दिस. अदरवाइज डिक्टेशन में क्या है, समझो ना, लिखा तो हर जगह हुआ है. और all of your energy should not be in writing where I have 10 pens to write. I don't understand why you have so many pens. छुपाने से क्या होगा, मुझे पता है किसके पास है. इतना शौक है 5 पेन से लिखने का. हाँ, सारा काम समझने का है. एस्थेटिक पर्पस इज व्हाट. अच्छा लगता है, आई कैन अंडरस्टैंड. ये अच्छा लगा नहीं ना स्कूल के बाद. कॉलेज में तो फॉरगेट हैविंग डिफरेंट पेन्स, यू डिड नॉट हैव डिफरेंट नोटबुक्स फॉर डिफरेंट सब्जेक्ट्स. फर्स्ट ईयर की नोटबुक थर्ड ईयर में भी चल रही है, और वो भी पड़ोसी की है, खुद की वो भी नहीं है. ये 5 पेन्स क्लास में नहीं ले गए कॉलेज में. कॉलेज का पर्पस अलग होता है. क्या पर्पस है वहाँ? यहाँ डिबेट नहीं कर सकते. यहाँ डिबेट, वहां सिर्फ बातें कर रहे हो विदाउट नोइंग. वो दैट इज नॉट डिबेट, दैट इज गॉसिप. दैट इज नॉट डिबेट. डिबेट इज समथिंग व्हेन यू हैव समथिंग टू से, व्हेन यू हैव एन ओपिनियन. ओपिनियन इज व्हेन यू आर रीडिंग समथिंग. अगर सिर्फ हवा में बातें कर रहे हो तो डिबेट नहीं बोलते. यू हैव टू प्रिपेयर टू इन ऑर्डर टू एंगेज इन अ डिबेट. इज दिस क्लियर? आर द मीनिंग ऑफ ऑल टर्म्स क्लियर? सबके. कैबल गुड्स के, अगर मैंने मशीन बाहर से मंगाई, मैंने फर्म से पूछा आपने कितनी मशीन्स खरीदी, फर्म से 10 मशीन्स, जिसमें से 8 इंडियन है, 2 आउटसाइड है, तो ये तो मेरे को माइनस करना है बिकॉज इंडिया में कितनी बनी. बट एक्सपेंडिचर 10 का काउंट हो गया. सो हाउ विल आई डू दिस -2? Definitely, though that will be counted. I made 10 machines. 8 machines were bought by firms. Where are the rest two? Bought by. कहाँ लिखा है कंज्यूमर में? हमने एक्सपोर्ट्स लिखा है. Whatever the expenditure done on goods and services produced in India, whether consumer or capital goods. अगर मैंने 10 मशीन बनाई हैं, 8 ही सिर्फ फर्म ने खरीदी, तो 2 कहाँ गई? कोई बाहर से खरीद गया, तो वो +2 यहाँ है. इज दिस क्लियर? So that is final for that year. It should not be included again next year. How it will not be included? So this year what will happen? Closing stock is 13, opening stock is 10. I have 3 goods, one which was produced but not sold, and two were raw and intermediate. So ये 2 count हो गए यहाँ पे, right? Next year what will happen? I start with 13 and I end with 11. So there will be +2 somewhere here. It will be, क्योंकि 2 convert हो गए ना. +2 का rate is 200, -2 का rate is 180. So I only add 20. I did not add the entire good again. यही same चीज I've answered right now. Is this clear how every expenditure is included? Now understand this one thing carefully. Are all terms clear? Now see what we have done. Household spend money on goods. Capital got added by all three. Government plus. These are the terms. I said firms produced 10 goods. This good was sold and it was bought by household. So I counted this particular expenditure. I never counted what exactly was the cost of production. ये तो नहीं काउंट किया हमने. हमने ये काउंट किया अगर 10 टेबल बने, cost of production I did not count. I counted what exactly is the price at which it was sold. Household bought it at 300, I counted 300. वो बना कितने का वो काउंट थोड़ी किया, right? But when the government provided you a service, say the government is providing water or the government is providing sanitation, I should have counted the price at which this service is sold. Who's buying this water and sanitation? Household, and these are the two which are buying. I did not count this expenditure on the cost at which it was sold. I instead counted the government cost of production. ये काउंट नहीं किया. गवर्नमेंट एक्सपेंडिचर में हमने कॉस्ट ले लिया. डिड यू अंडरस्टैंड? When I said firm is producing a table, I counted what is the amount spent by household on the table. I did not count the cost of, but when I counted government expenditure, I counted what is the cost of production, not the price at which it was sold. Government expenditure, we have counted cost of production, that is salary plus goods and services that have been purchased. हमने ये काउंट किया है जी में कॉस्ट, बाकी सब एक्सपेंडिचर फॉर्मेट्स हैं, गवर्नमेंट एक्सपेंडिचर कॉस्ट फॉर्मेट है. डू यू अंडरस्टैंड? When I said firm has produced 10 tables, understand this carefully, there's a very minor difference but can be asked in a question. Firm produced 10 tables. What am I counting? I am counting who has spent money on this table. I am not counting what exactly is the, दोनों कर सकता हूं मैं, पर मैं अभी एक्सपेंडिचर में what I am doing, I am counting the amount. But when the government water and sanitation I am selling, I am not counting what is the amount that is spent on them. I am counting what is its. तो ये वाला जो कंपोनेंट है कॉस्ट कंपोनेंट है, बाकी एक्सपेंडिचर कंपोनेंट है. Household, how much they have spent. Firms, household, government, how much they have spent. But government, how much not they have spent, but how much they have. आइडियली गवर्नमेंट ने वाटर और सैनिटेशन दिया तो इसका खर्चा सी और आई में आना चाहिए था, बट इसका खर्चा हमने जी में क्यों लिया एंड व्हाई कॉस्ट? डिड यू अंडरस्टैंड द क्वेश्चन नाउ? इज द क्वेश्चन क्लियर? All of the terms are expenditure terms. For this I am calculating the money spent, not the money used in production. But whenever government is producing something, I am calculating the cost of its production, not at which it is spent. Why? Ideally, if I am charging 10 rupees for water, 15 for sanitation, this 25 should be calculated in C. But this 25 is not calculated in C. I am calculating how much did the government spend to produce this service. Why am I calculating government expenditure at cost? Question समझ आया? Is the first question clear? Who has not understood the question? I started with asking a question that whatever was produced, someone spent money on production. I never said what was produced, what was its cost of production. I was never measuring cost. I was always measuring money spent on buying it. This is money spent on buying, this is money spent on buying, this is money spent on buying. This is not money spent on buying. This is money spent on producing. So why this is special? Why this is special? Why am I not counting government expenditure on cost? Because whatever government is producing in terms of these goods or services, these are not sold in the market for a price. These are sold for free. If they are sold for free, but someone has produced money for giving it, so जब ये चीज बिक्री जीरो पे है, but something has been produced, so how do I calculate this? Only when I know what is the, because whatever is being produced by the government is not sold at a market price, I do not calculate the expenditure done on them. I calculate what is the cost of production. This is why the government final consumption expenditure is a cost variable. It's not a expenditure variable. Because whatever government produces is producing it for or selling it for free. Since this does not have a market value, I will count the cost of its production because I can't calculate its market price. Say for example, firm produces a Maruti car. This Maruti car is sold for a price in the market. If this is what I add, if there is no market price, it is sold for free. It is produced. How will I calculate what is produced? I will have to calculate the, this is what the government is doing. Is this making sense? Write down. Make a small note below this. Since the public goods and services provided by the government since the public goods and services provided by the government do not have a market price, Therefore, the expenditure done by firms and household, expenditure done by firms and households cannot be estimated as a result of this. The production of these goods and services will be estimated by calculating the cost of their production. Calculating their cost of production. Therefore, the government expenditure in the above equation, therefore, the government expenditure on the above in the above equation is a cost variable. Government expenditure in the above equation is a cost variable, whereas all the others are expenditure variables. As all the others are expenditure variables. Is this making sense? बाकी तीन खर्चे. Government expenditure is a cost for producing. Why? Because whatever I produce cannot be sold in a market at a price. This is why cost component. Is this clear? Now, will the expenditure done on second hand items be included? If the household buys a second hand car, they will answer this question in C. Should that expenditure be counted? Why? Because it's already counted. So write down in the next line, expenditure done on second hand goods. Expenditure done on second hand goods will not be included. Sometimes the households and the firms don't write. Listen, the household and the firms, dictation banana hai sabko bas notes. Household and firms can buy shares, bonds, or land also. And household can buy a land also, piece of land. Should that money spent on buying the land, shares, or bonds, should that be included? What are shares, bonds? I'll explain in detail in money. But let's say, for example, a household has spent 5 lakh rupees in buying a land. Should that be included? Why? लैंड खरीदा है तो सिर्फ ओनरशिप चेंज हुई ए टू बी प्रोडक्शन क्या हुई व्हाट इज प्रॉफिट आई एम वाज देयर एनी गुड और सर्विस प्रोड्यूस्ड फॉरगेट व्हाट द वैल्यू इज एडेड हो सकता है 5 लाख का 8 लाख का खरीदा है बट इज देयर एनीथिंग प्रोड्यूस्ड इट्स ओनली अ चेंज इन ओनरशिप बट इफ देयर इज अ कमीशन एजेंट हु हैज चार्ज कमीशन फ्रॉम यू फॉर गेटिंग दैट बाइंग दैट हाउस will the money paid to the commission agent be added why कमीशन एजेंट ने सर्विस दी है land, bonds, or shares only represent a change in ownership. They do not represent any production. But the moment you construct, that gets added. That wo I mein hai. Otherwise, it's only change in ownership. So you can write down the expenditure done on buying land, expenditure done on buying land, shares or bonds, expenditure done on buying land, shares or bonds will not be included. Will not be included because there is no good or service produced. There is no good or service produced. But if commission is paid to a broker, commission is paid to a broker, that will be included. That will be included because the service is created. Next, right? The interest paid by households and government, the interest paid by households and government on the loans are not included. The interest paid by household and government on the loans will not be included as they are considered unproductive. They are considered unproductive. In bracket, write down. The exception is construction loan taken by household. Exception is construction loan taken by household and external loan taken by government. And external loan taken by government. In the next one, right? Loans taken by the firms are considered productive. Loans taken by firms are considered productive. Loans taken by firms are considered productive. Therefore, the interest payments are included. Therefore, these interest payments are included. These interest payments are included. This is what I'm saying. Loan taken by firm is productive. This is why their payments are counted in expenditure. But if loan taken by household or government, they are not included because they are considered unproductive. Only two exceptions: construction loan or government external. Because loan payments are also expenditures. So only those will be counted which are made by firm or these two exceptions. Rest will not be counted. Is this clear? We have counted all the expenditures. We have discussed about all the different scenarios which will be included and not. Revise all of this. Next class, we are going to discuss the two other methods: income method and product method. What we have counted right now is expenditure. Tomorrow we'll count the incomes and also count the total production made. All the three are equal. Then we'll discuss the concept of factor cost, market price, and also basic prices. We'll try to finish this estimation of GDP and then continue with growth and development. So once we discuss that tomorrow, you can read the first chapter of NCRT, that is GDP. All of that chapter will now make sense, barring the two methods which I have to discuss tomorrow. Revise all of this. We'll discuss from this onwards. Thank you.